Disney really needs this one to work.
People are always going to be interested in stories. It's a different
You
experience.
made one little comment there that's actually quite profound.
So how you doing?
Good. You been busy?
Yeah, I've been good. Very good. Busy.
Did you go to New York recently? Or you were somewhere, right?
Oh, I was up in Buffalo. It's true. I was up in Buffalo actually very recently to see a friend's movie. And
Oh, not for the studio thing.
well, I am talking now. It's not about a studio. It's just that the benefits in New York State have gotten even better. And they're trying to be competitive or more than competitive with the best benefits in the country. With all of the talk about what Trump is going to do with, stopping foreign stuff coming in, which I think is not going to really work. Nevertheless, work in the country has been very slow, and it may actually pick up. So if it is going to pick up, it's going to pick up in states that have really solid benefits, and New York State has as good a benefit law now as any state in the country. I mean, as good as good or even better than Georgia. So that's pretty interesting.
I heard that New York wasn't paying out.
No, they are paying out. They just pay because they have so much. There was so much work there. It takes them 2-3 years before they're able to pay out the benefits. But the new law that was just passed increased the amount per year. Because in the past, if you apply for benefits in New York State and they used up all the benefits in the year that they
There's the total cap.
the total cap for the year, they
cap.
moved you into the next year.
Oh,
or
so
the
it got
next
used
year.
up,
and
and
so
then
it would
moved
wind
down.
up getting pushed back. Now, for independent films, and generally lower budget films, I don't know exactly what the cutoff is, they have made a new law, a new policy actually, saying that any films that are made in New York State that are lower budget, up to about 100 million of their 700 million in benefits, will be paid out within the year that the film is made. So that's going to change the problem that
because it's hard. I mean, you're using tax incentives and credits to finance your film, and you don't know if you're going to get it in a year or in 3 years.
Well,
that's
the big thing about that is it really is a problem for independents. It's not a big problem for
studios,
Netflix or studios, because they just put it on their books and they'll get the money when they get it, and they don't worry about it because they can cash flow.
But for guys like us, it's hard.
We can't do that because we wind up, what we'll have to pay in interest by the time we get that money is going to eat up a lot of the benefits. So now this will change things. Now, the benefit in California, which exists, is basically good for the major studios. It doesn't do much for independents, really. So we'll see. Maybe they will make it better, but I highly doubt that it will be as competitive as the ones on the East Coast, because there's plenty of business here. I mean, it's not what it used to be, certainly, but the TV business still is going to exist here to a large extent. So their need to have a major benefit is less, unless they really want to boost the industry here, and we'll see. What happens.
California was the 5th or 8th largest economy in the world.
I think the third.
Really?
Yeah,
oh my gosh. Well, then it's with
enormous.
tech, I guess,
Yeah.
and
It is
AI now, it's going, because we have entertainment and tech.
Yeah.
And we have 37 million people.
No. There's no question. California has a lot going for it in terms of, its economy.
Yeah.
Entertainment industry has always been looked at a little askance, even though it's a major industry here. It hasn't been protected in the way that other states will protect their interests. It hasn't,
There's not a government security interest in entertainment.
No.
Tech, of course, you can use for
tech, yes, but
applications.
not entertainment so much, and that's hard. But I mean, also gaming, other things. Gaming is bigger than film.
That's true. Yeah, we got gaming, we got music, we also have theater, but that's more New York.
Yeah.
But that we got a lot going on.
We do.
So what was it that you wanted to?
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of talk about the fact that the two biggest movies coming out should be the two biggest movies of the year: Lilo and Stitch, the live action version.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one is Mission Impossible, the latest Mission Impossible, maybe the last one that'll have Tom Cruise in it. Now you look at these two movies and you think, okay, these are the biggest movies. Both are franchise movies. Both are movies from a franchise that people already know before they ever see a foot of film.
Yeah.
Now I wanted to ask you this question because you're a father.
Yeah.
You have little kids. Yeah. More than likely, you're going to go see Lilo and Stitch. Mm-hmm. And your interest in action movies is also pretty high along the talk that we did. So it's most likely that you're going to also see Mission Impossible. You won't take your kids maybe because they're little kids,
right.
But they'll probably go see Lilo and Stitch and they're going to go see Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the notion of, it's a different business. That is not the business that I have been in, but the franchise business seems to be the business that is really running the industry. Yeah. Everything that is franchisable gets franchised, and anything that is franchised gets made and already has a built-in audience that is going to go see it. So that they're already projecting hundreds of millions of dollars for these two movies. They're saying that they are the Barbenheimer of this year on spades. At least those were two, whether you thought of them as franchises or not. Certainly Oppenheimer wasn't a franchise. It's a single great movie. And Barbie, which is definitely the beginning of a potential franchise. And what made it interesting to me, I think, was that they took an idea that was well known, well publicized, with a real audience built in, but they actually created a real kind of a woman empowerment story out of it.
I went to Barbie at Warner Brothers before it, went all over, and it had, Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, and they were all doing the thing that they do when they do these kinds of things. And I didn't want, it's not my interest, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest, like what I actually thought about the film on a personal level, it's all right, it's what it is, right? And they made a good thing with what they did. And I was actually impressed to find out that Margot was the one who produced it and got the Mattel contract, and it was all her doing. But I went with my wife, and she really loved it. And I saw, I like watching the audience and people's reactions to things. And I'm not making any point other than you bringing up this kind of IP franchise. That's kind of what's hot and all that stuff. And this being kind of the dawn of a new franchise, because I'm certain that Margot didn't go in there doing that with the intention of just doing a one-off and calling it a day, right? There's probably going to be Ken's Adventures, and there's all kind of breakouts. I don't know if you want to kind of dive into why you think that is. I certainly have my opinion, but I feel like it's already a risk-averse business to begin with. It's already kind of an uncertain business to begin with. These are, because of the fact that the secondary market is basically gone. There's no DVD and home, it goes theater, streamer. You just need to hedge your bets, and that's one layer of security. Well, it's worked before, it'll work again. And then in addition to that, these franchises and this kind of IP has a very high kind of ancillary market value. So you start getting into soundtracks and lunch boxes and toys, and Barbie's sales see spikes, and everybody gets more money from other things.
Obviously, that's something that you won't see coming out of, say, Oppenheimer. I mean,
no, that's true. Oppenheimer,
Oppenheimer was just in a way, it's a kind of a biopic. It's about a real person. It's about a real story. It took place in a real time. Excellently made. And it did extraordinarily well. It did really well.
So, I mean, one could almost call it the outlier, right? Because even if you take into consideration Top Gun, which was another recent, $2 billion movie,
came out around the same time.
You have the throwback there, right? So it's a good time for a Top Gun reboot. I think it was timely, and it is a good film. I saw it. They did technologically some really cool stuff with how they place the cameras in the jets and stuff. But even there, you got action figures and model airplanes and blankets, and kids love airplanes and stuff. So I think, to tie it back to what you brought up in the beginning, it seems like it's a very logical move because, risk aversion is high, secondary markets are low. What you need is a broad release where it's very likely that a lot of people are going to go based on
people know. The thing is, if you look at Mission Impossible, they've done however many they've done. It's been a tremendously positive cash flow franchise. Not every movie has been great, but people want to see it. And if you look at the trailers for it, which I have seen many, many times on television now, the trailer is wall-to-wall action. All you see is Tom Cruise running, jumping, hanging on airplanes, doing, which is exactly what the franchise is delivering. That's what they're going to deliver. Yeah. They're going to deliver that.
Yeah.
And the audience knows it, and the audience already is waiting to see it. So there is a pre-sold audience before you even sell a single ticket.
Exactly.
Everybody knows what it is. Lilo and Stitch was a very successful animated film. It's cute. I saw it, years ago. And now they've done a live action version of it. And now it seems that every cartoon that Disney has made, they are moving into live action versions of those cartoons.
And yes, and that's actually a good tie-in to an episode we did a while ago about Snow White, because that was the beginning. I mean,
let's stay away from Snow White. Yeah.
Disney really needs this one to work.
Yeah.
Because they already kiboshed, I believe, the Tangled reboot, or they were going to do another. I don't know if it was Tangled, but they had another one in the pipeline that I heard that right after Snow White, they said, well, maybe let's wait for a second. I think Lilo and Stitch is a smart move because, well, unless they decide to make it in, Uganda this time or something, but, it was an island, right? Is it still the same kind of Pacific Islander?
Apparently, it's, the same.
They honored the story.
Character, and the story is what it was.
Yeah, and the main character is a fluffy little blue alien. You're not offending anybody.
And the blue alien, instead of being a cartoon figure, is a 3D cartoon figure. I mean, he's 3D animated.
I think that
but everyone else in it is live action.
I feel like they're going to do well with that. I think
they're projecting it to be as big as Mission Impossible. I mean, they think this coming weekend will be between those two movies, and those movies are going to do business like Oppenheimer, maybe even bigger.
Minecraft, last time I checked, did really well, right? So I think the idea of...
Well, what do you think about it? I mean, as I said, these are movies you're going to have to... I mean, I think probably will take your kids to see Lilo and Stitch because you know about it.
Yeah.
And you are an action guy, so you want to see an action movie.
I do. I like Mission Impossible. I like Tom Cruise films. I tend to... I have a little screening room, so I for my movies tend to just kind of watch them on my little projector at home because, I feel like... It's a logistical thing. It's breaking away, going to the movie theater. I wouldn't. My wife wouldn't be interested. So, unless it's a screening at the PGA or something like that, I don't know that I would necessarily treat myself to go to the movies like that. Because
what about your kids?
Just the kids, Lilo and Stitch. Definitely, I'm going to go because we went. The 3-year-old is starting to get old enough to go to movies, and I think. Minecraft was not one that I was going to take him to. It's a little over his head still, but I think Lilo and Stitch he'll be able to sit through because he does like little creatures and stuff. So pretty sure I'm going to go. I'm probably going to go with the whole family, so it's going to be a good payday for AMC and Disney.
Well, it's going to be a good payday, I think, for the companies that make, certainly for Disney, certainly for, Paramount, whoever's making the big movies. The thing I'm driving at also is that we're not... When we discuss movies, often we're talking about stories. We're talking about movies that are one-offs a lot. I mean, we're talking about
stories. I can tell you that in both of these, the story's not going to matter. So they probably didn't put a bunch of effort into the script.
I don't know that they did.
Maybe Disney did
because they're looking. I mean, that's why I brought up Barbie, because Barbie is a brand, right? And Barbie is a brand that. They took the brand. You could have done anything with that. You could have done just using the brand alone.
Yeah.
You could have made any kind of silly movie about dolls or anything you wanted, and you would still get a fairly reasonable opening.
Yeah.
If it was terrible, it might have fallen off, but it made sense to do. You would never say, why did these guys make a movie called Barbie? Of course you know why they made the movie.
Yeah.
But what they did do was they brought in a real filmmaker, someone who'd made independent films, Greta Gerwig. She's a really good filmmaker. Right. She's made other movies. Her other movies are not franchises. They're independent, interesting movies about people. And she took the characters, created something that was an interesting story, whether you liked it or whether you don't, or whether you're a Barbie fan or not. You didn't have to be to go see it. So it ramped it up to another level, and the movie did extremely well.
Yeah. In fact, Greta was Margot's first choice because she had seen, was it Lady Bird, or what's the thing that she did before that?
Great.
And
very good movie.
She thought that the style of writing it, that would be perfect. So Margot obviously did want to make it sort of as an empowering film. But then Greta, I believe, wanted Margot to be Barbie, and she didn't initially expect to be Barbie, at least according to her. but it was just funny to see that dynamic. So I can see how that ended up happening and came together, and it did make sense for the vision that Margot had for the whole project to put Greta in as the, I believe, writer or co-writer and director. I believe she had something to do with the script too.
Yeah, she did. Just to get back to the connection that I was talking about with the studio, the drink that Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So they're doing a Kool-Aid movie. I mean, that's what they're doing.
So they're all
I mean, now you think of it, it's meant to be bigger. You're taking an idea and extending it.
So what you're getting at is
you're
saying that it seems like the focus now is like, where can we find a popular?
Let's find a product that everybody knows, and let's make a movie about it. So they're making the Kool-Aid movie, and it sounds funny. The truth is, when you think about it, and you think about where the direction of movies is going, it's not that it's not that crazy. I mean, someone probably will make a Kool-Aid movie. Yeah. Someone will make a high C movie. Who knows? I mean, those are things that are not as funny and as outrageous as the idea is. It's not that outrageous anymore. We're making those movies.
I think you're right, because
we're actually making them.
We're making them, and I don't know that I feel in any way, annoyed or overjoyed about it. I think, like you said, it makes sense, and as long as it's done in an interesting way and it's fun.
Okay. The premise to me is that you could take almost that. There could be a Slinky movie because it's a toy. Let's have a Slinky movie. Why not?
Well,
let's have there is there are movies about every Monopoly games. All of them are IPs that everybody knows, and if you make a movie about them and you put a movie and you put a little time into creating a story that works behind the logos, you have a built-in audience. If you do it well, you now have a new franchise.
So what do you think
about
I'm
saying?
it? What how do you feel about it?
What I'm saying to you is that this is not. When I came into the movie business, I wasn't looking to make franchises about toys or anything. I wanted to tell good stories, and what I'm saying is that the story came in Barbie, certainly.
It's secondary.
The story is secondary. I mean, if you make a good story, you may extend the possibility of the franchise going on. I mean, if you look at Mission Impossible, you're looking at something that is, what you're getting every time. I mean, it is Ethan Hunt is going to go after the bad guys, and he's going to use technology, and he's going to wind up hanging from trains, planes, and whatever exists, and we're going to see that, and we're going to go along for the ride. Yeah. But it is a ride. It is absolutely
it's for the action.
This is an amusement park. I've said it before about these kinds of movies. They're an amusement park. They're not a story that is going to make you, like a book that you read and you sit down and you can really enjoy. Yeah. They're not that. Now, I came into this business for that purpose. I was looking for the story. And I still am. Even when I'm telling stories about real people, the only reason I got involved in real people is because the real people that I got involved telling stories about were almost always outliers. And their stories were always interesting. The outlier is somebody who is not down the middle. They're going to be successful from the first minute. You don't. They didn't. They didn't know it. They're real people, and they wound up fighting very difficult odds in every case, and hopefully they succeeded. Elephant Man. Yeah, it's a guy who fights the odds of everyone thinking of him as a monster, and he's anything but a monster. Ultimately, he dies, but there's a lesson to be learned from treating a monster the way he was treated. Frances was about an actress who told the truth in a time when telling the truth was not what you did, and she suffered for it. And it was it's a hard story, but it is a real story.
But even you take breaks. You went and did The Producers.
No, of course. No, I've done
IP
other things.
And was done.
Well, The Producers is, I mean, it's not exactly a franchise, but it is taking an earlier movie and changing, I mean, I wouldn't in any way say that, I mean, to me, the original idea of the original Producers is what
I think it was brilliant. I mean, it
was a brilliant idea.
As a filmmaker, you kind of are compelled to
It's a brilliant idea. And we just kind of took the Broadway show and made that into a movie with the music and everything else. But we already had something that was iconic going in,
I don't want to segue from this topic, but because you were talking about the Producers came up, and it's kind of, that was a very successful version of something like that. But I think we're compelled sometimes as filmmakers or industry people to make films that have to do with insight into the industry. And have you ever seen Living in Oblivion? It's a very small indie film.
Yes.
I love that film,
yeah,
right?
Very good film.
And just as an example,
it's about the business.
Yeah, it's about an indie filmmaker struggling to get his story done and all the things that come with running a set and making a movie.
It's a terrific movie. I think that, it's a movie that it could have. I mean, you could remake that movie and it'd still be good. It's a great story. But, not that you have to do... I'm not suggesting you got to remake everything that's out there. I mean, the funny thing about Elephant Man is somebody is remaking or trying to remake the movie. Not me.
Oh, really?
I'm not interested in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was...
Is it actively happening?
It is. Well, what I think is actually happening is someone is trying to tell the story as it is now known about the real individual, that it'll be more of a
more accurate
biographical version of the story. I mean, I can't imagine it being similar in any way. Yeah. It's not going to have the David Lynch effect, which we didn't even know we had until we had it. But I mean, it will be different. It'll be different. Do I think it's a great idea? Not for me, it isn't, but I think if people want to see it,
see what they do with it.
More power to them.
What's your philosophy on films? Because
I'm just saying that it's the difference between. I think most movies that we are seeing now are the kind of. I mean, if you were going to compare it to books, you would say the books you get at the airport to read a quick read that is, and they're bestsellers and they're big, those are one kind of books, and then they're the books that people call literature, and those are books that may stand the test of time, but they don't sell millions and millions of copies. But thoughtful people like to read them. I want to make thoughtful movies. I want lots of people to see them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not looking to limit my audience, but my interest for myself is making something that is a story.
Do you feel a little bit betrayed by the industry that they're leaning so heavily into...
I don't feel betrayed. I just think it's, comparing these two things is a bit of a misnomer because they're not the same.
No.
To compare Mission Impossible and...
Cabrini.
I mean,
right.
Mission Impossible and Cabrini, they're totally different things. They're not... Yes, they're both on film, but they're not the same thing. They're not even close to being the same thing. In fact, Mission Impossible bears more relationship to Lilo and Stitch, the movie, than anything else, because
it's
that's
designed to evoke some sensation.
That's really what I'm saying. I'm saying that I mean the major studios at this point, that's where their sweet spot is going to be those things that have big IP. I mean, the IP is so known that the audience will already be ready to put their hard-earned dollars down on those things, even before they have any idea what they are, because they know what they are. I mean, it's you don't have to know. I mean, either the stunt is bad or the stunt is good. The stunt's going to be good that Tom Cruise is in. You know that the action is going to be good. You don't really care much about what the story is because you know what the story is. It's going to be Ethan Hunt fighting the bad guys, whoever they may be, and the bad guys could be anybody. In Lilo and Stitch, you got a crazy, wild little alien figure and a little girl, and the funny things that come out of that, and the alien is thumbs its nose at most people, and the little girl who hangs out with it, enjoys the process, and that's, you know what it is. I mean, and I haven't seen either of these movies, but I know what they are.
But you know what they are, and they're the type of thing, they're sort of designed to not require too much emotional investment and concentration. I think they're...
Actually, I will say, as a kind of an outlier a little bit, I think Barbie was different in a way because I didn't know what the story was. I mean, I assumed it was just going to be dolls and pretty clothes, and because that's what Barbie is, little girls with dolls and pretty clothes. And they took the idea of it and turned it into a story that actually was about female empowerment, and it had a little more to it than I ever would have expected. It didn't even need to have that to be successful.
Well, so but
it made it more successful.
That's actually, that's a question that I have for you too, because I think, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just curious to see what you think about it, because this is something that you actually don't do in your films. I don't think you try to project or influence in as much, a public opinion. I think you enjoy letting a real story unfold the way it should, as a good story. It did seem to me there were moments during Barbie where me, just as the person I am, again, not with any I don't want to go pick it, but I just felt like, that was an unnecessary statement. This was a little bit like, so movie, enjoying agenda in my face. Movie, trying to tell me that the way I think isn't right. And movie, not that,
No, look,
it's like...
I don't disagree with the notion that, and I don't like it either, when I go see a movie and the movie kind of is trying to steer me into a particular way of thinking, and it doesn't allow me to come up with those thoughts myself. I don't think Barbie did it to me anyway, to a great extent that it was that I found it a negative thing.
Yeah.
I think, yes, it certainly had an agenda, but the agenda was delivered within the context of Barbie, rather than taking me out and turning Barbie into
well, and look, I understand, like, Barbie
Eleanor
is
Smeal or somebody.
Yeah, right. But no, Barbie is she's the lead, right?
Yeah.
And Ken was always Ken, like just Ken. It was always like that. So the fact that Ken's not the macho guy, I think that's great. Like, but I can't remember what they were, because it's a long time since I saw it. But every once in a while, a little line or something, or a look or a jab or something, it just feels like, There's another movie that I saw recently where, same example. So Will Ferrell did a movie called Sherlock and Watson. It was on Netflix. I don't think it was theatrically released. And I just stumbled on it and I watched it. I thought it was hilarious. I watched it once myself, and then I brought my wife in. But there's one moment where they're in the park, and he throws a jab at... They start talking about, well, maybe one day, you mean anybody could be, president or something. They go into this dialogue about presidency, and then it's very obvious, and he says something that's clearly a Trump jab, right? I'm not saying yes or no. I'm not saying, I want to protect Trump or I want to put him down. I'm staying very neutral here, and I, as a person, can say this. I've never liked the guy. I vote person, not party. I always look at, well, would I let him babysit my kids? And the answer has always been no from the day one. It has nothing to do with politics. I just don't trust the guy. But I think for a movie, when you go and you're trying to entertain a crowd, this is a period piece about Sherlock Holmes. Why are you bringing politics into it? Because you, right there, just eliminated half your audience. You not eliminated, but you offended half your audience. Now, again, I'm not saying good or bad. We could go into Palestine, Israel. We could go into Pakistan, India.
And you did something else. You dated your movie in a way.
You dated it. You broke the fourth wall.
That may wind up coming to bite you in the future. People say, oh, God, I mean, who knows? We don't know where it's going to go, but it does certainly date a project.
Religious and political opinions don't have any room in entertainment. If you're doing that, you're kind of insidious. One day or the other, you're kind of you're using your platform for the wrong thing in a way, in my opinion, right? Because you're deceiving the audience, even if it's just a quick thing. I paid to go laugh. I want to see a Will Ferrell film. I want to see a Barbie movie. Like, I want to see that. I don't want to be preached to. And maybe I feel about that more strongly than you do.
I don't know that I totally disagree with you. I mean, I think I may have a different view on it, but I mean, to a certain extent, it's kind of like watching the Academy Award show, and you want to see these people being silly, and somebody comes up and makes a political statement in the middle of it that really is not necessarily appropriate. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is appropriate. But I mean, is it appropriate when years ago Marlon Brando didn't go? He had this woman, Sachin Littlefeather, came up to turn down the award. Look, the sentiment was fine. The platform seemed a little foolish. In some ways, it made less of the issue that he was trying to point out. He was trying to, I'm talking about Brando, was trying to say something strong about an issue, but by putting it in that context, I think he undermined his own his own aim.
And there's simply no need for it, because if you're at the level of a Will Ferrell or a Marlon Brando nowadays, you have your own platform. So DiCaprio does this the best. He's a huge environmentalist, but you're not gonna see that in The Revenant. You're not gonna see that in The Wolf of Wall Street. You're gonna see it on his Instagram and the documentaries that he makes. So do that.
Okay. I go along with that. Yeah, I certainly do. I mean, I think that there's a place for these things that is more, can be more effective. And I mean, it's about using the platform in an effective way that you have.
Is it? I'm sure you have this. There's a kind of an industry statement. What's best for the movie. That's kind of the focus always. It's whenever a director gets an ego about him, an actor, a producer, they have ideas. You just got to take a step back and say, is it best for the movie? Is it going to increase the odds of this movie landing with as many people as possible?
And that is definitely something that I see as a producer, that I'm here to protect the director, but only, which I do see myself as a producer, once I have a director and a director has a vision and we all agree on that vision. My job as a producer is to protect the director, enable the director to make the vision that we all agree on.
But you have this other layer.
But there is another layer when I see it moving away from the vision. I have to support the larger issue is supporting the picture. The movie is the thing that I'm supporting most. So even more than any individual. So if somebody tries to take it, and hijack it for their own purposes, I'm going to fight that. I don't want that. That's not the point. The point is I want to make the best movie I can. But there are. This is a complicated issue if we're going to talk about the politics of movie making. I'm not talking, that isn't really where I was starting here. I mean, my interest really was in making it clear to the audience that we have that you can certainly make the high C movie or the, whatever the product is, and turn that into something, knowing that you already have something that is going to bring people in. But you can also work telling really good stories. That's what I want to do.
So my question there is, I think I'm acting as a proxy now because I get these kinds of pitches and ideas from people a lot. There's a huge amount of the population that they may have never made a movie, or maybe they have, but a lot of them are motivated by global issues, human trafficking, certain, rights and representing underserved people and stuff like that. And I think that that's very noble. And there should be movies. I mean, your director of Cabrini did a movie before that that was obviously all about trafficking and things like that. And what do you think? Because now you're kind of looking at IP, and I bring this up because of the topic. If you drill down to its core essential reasoning, taking an IP, a product, a story that's been successful in the past, the reason that works is because there's a built-in knowledge and understanding and relationship to the general public already. It's easier for them to say, oh, I know what that is, I'll pay to see the next one. Or why doesn't it work as well when it's a global topic or issue? Like if you say this is a movie about global warming, this is a movie about human trafficking, it doesn't have the same assurance.
It absolutely does not.
But it is a broad human thing. So
it's a broad human thing, but it doesn't mean that it's not sexy. It's not story driven necessarily. It can be. I mean, a good story
like
about
you said,
the subject,
Barbie, right?
A good story about the subject that doesn't harp on the issue is probably better for me than something that is only going to be issue-oriented. I have received many, many projects that are issue-oriented projects. I am not interested in them on the basis of the issue. I'm only interested in them on the basis of the story. If the story is a good story, right? I will want to see it.
Yeah.
I didn't make Paraiso Travel about a woman who goes into prostitution or does whatever she does because she can't. None of that.
Showcase
that wasn't what it was. It was about a story.
But their topics.
It's a story.
Yeah.
I mean, no, the topics happen to be in them, and maybe those are things that are interesting to me. But I think your general audience doesn't want to see a movie about global warming.
Yeah.
They don't want to see that.
Yeah.
They might want to see a movie that talks about somebody who was flooded out and not related to a larger issue, but related to their small human issue, which is connected to a larger issue, but it isn't thrown in your face.
But it's probably part of the reason why dramas are so hard to sell and get going, because it's hard to tell a person, okay, well, you could go here and laugh for 2 hours or get thrilled or be excited or live in a world that you would never be able to live in otherwise. Or you could go watch something really kind of painful and depressing sometimes.
But okay. I mean, I think you're making a dichotomy that I'm not sure I agree with, because I think that a good story has drama to it, has conflict to it, has all of those things, and it doesn't matter that that the larger issue is about a real. I mean, it matters to people after the fact and to critics, but I'm talking about when I'm sitting and watching something, I want to be moved to to laughter, to tears. I want to be intrigued by the way a story works out. I want to be all of those things, and if those things exist, everything else that happens around that isn't that important to me. I want to follow the story. That's really where I'm at.
I think you've really helped me through your own work just come around to that, because I've said this many times. I wouldn't.
Yeah, you wouldn't watch these.
I wouldn't go to any
which
of
is
them.
Great. I mean, you're the one guy I'm not going to get a nickel from. That I know. So let's be clear.
But now you will. Now I will go to all of your films because you've converted me. You've successfully taken a meat eater and made him a vegetarian, man. Because
oh my God, I'm sorry about that.
No, you have a way.
I mean, it's good for cows.
You have a way of putting teams together and running your projects that even though during you feel like, oh man, I really hope, it's bad, it's just getting worse. But then when you leave, even if the ending's not happy, like Francis, for instance, you walk away satisfied. And I think that's a really tricky thing to do. And I don't know if that's even intentional or not, but that...
No, it is. It's no question it is intentional. I mean, I'm always looking in the films that I want to make to have it be satisfying to an audience. The truth is, I've changed over the course of my own career. I haven't, I might not make movies today that I made 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I very clearly, I might have a problem with Francis today if somebody brought me that project. I don't know. It could very well be, because I'm looking now for projects that have some enlightening feeling to them or some hope. If there's no hope at the end of a story, I'm not likely to be the person to make them. Now, that's an interesting thing, because I was thinking about that in terms of the movie Oppenheimer, which we talked about a little bit. Oppenheimer, I thought, was a really good movie. And you could look at that movie at the end where he is saying, I am, the, possible killer of millions, that kind of thing, and realize it is a pretty hard story at the end. I mean, you don't think of it as being a happy, hopeful story.
Do you think because it's real and historical, they get away with that in a sense?
I don't know. I mean, it didn't,
because we all know how it ended.
I would have said before, I'm always looking for a hopeful ending. Well, I don't know that there's a hopeful ending to that movie necessarily, but I still would. If I had, I would have made it if I could have.
But I think it's okay because it's a historical piece and we are still alive, so the audience at least knows it doesn't end in the world blowing up. At least not yet, right? True. That's yet to be written.
Yeah, yes, that part is written. Yeah, maybe that's possible. I don't know. I mean, I just know that the movie was, it moved me, it enlightened me, and it told me stuff that I didn't know, and that was all good, and obviously audiences responded to the performances, they responded to the story, they responded to, what Oppenheimer himself was going through. I knew nothing really. I mean, if you would ask me about Oppenheimer, I would have known that he was connected to the bomb and that he was probably the architect of the atom bomb and all that. But I wouldn't have known much more about it than that.
Same here.
And I learned a lot. Yeah. And but it wasn't crammed down me as something I didn't want to learn. I learned it, but it was beautifully told in such a way that I found it fascinating.
I think things like that also work because, the concept of a good reality show, for instance, because I have some friends in that business, something that sells really well is obviously characters and access. You want to see a world that you don't have access to or that you don't know about. That makes a good, like the Kardashians are so appealing because they're characters, but that lifestyle, you can't have that. And you kind of feel like you want to see that and be in there, right? I think maybe there's something about things like Oppenheimer and films that are about, like the Manhattan Project and all this, government insight, CIA and, FBI and all these things that we kind of are on the outskirts of, that there's an appeal to, as opposed to, well, actually, no. In your case, you're working on a Wright brothers film, and it's not something that necessarily a lot of people just go Google, what is the history and the story of the Wright brothers? But we've all been in airplanes, or a lot of people have been in airplanes, and we don't maybe take it for granted, and I think that's something I think that we all
do. We do.
In a way, that's IP. In a way, that's something like Barbie.
I mean, imagine what the world would have been like before anyone had ever done it. No one had ever,
it's insane,
flown in a plane before, and these were the first. that to me there's something, extraordinary about the beginning of something.
But it's so
the beginning of anything
ingrained already in every day that people don't think about it. So when you give people a chance to go back and say, you know what, that is a huge feat, and I think that movie would work really well because I'm tying this in because we spoke about brands and franchises, and then why worldwide issues don't do as well. But then there's this other thing, which are things that we all know that aren't necessarily brands, but the guy who invented the hula hoop or the windshield wiper, the guy who invented, right? The founder, McDonald's, things like that.
Yes.
It's not about McDonald's. Oh, look at the Happy Meals all talking with each other. It's not a silly, but it's an inspirational
hula hoop. Hey, there's a movie. There's a movie in the hula hoop. I gotta tell you,
I know.
I think that's
that's something.
It could be,
but it's not about the hoop. It's about the guy who invented the hoop.
Or the frisbee. Frisbee, the movie.
Frisbee, the movie, right? How a plastic disc and its founder became friends, and maybe the frisbee talks. That would be the Disney version. Yeah. But you have a tendency to find these things because Marshall was the first African-American Supreme Court justice.
Well, he was, right? But the movie wasn't about that.
That's what I'm saying. It's about the guy. It's not the thing. But there's that tie-in.
Yes.
Cabrini launched this whole American thing.
Humanitarian
thing, which Mother Teresa said she was the inspiration for. Mother Teresa. And so in a way, you kind of have your own way of doing the IP thing to a degree. I don't know what I'm trying to say with it, but it seems like to make a movie that has appeal.
See, I don't know either. I mean, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Again, I don't think I'm trying to say one thing. I just think that I have a tendency to like certain kinds of material, and when you look at it over a period of time, you see there's some consistency there. But I didn't even know it when I did it. I mean, I just knew this is a great story. Why was I interested in Cabrini? Not because she was became a saint or any of that. None of that really was interesting. I just thought, this is a pretty interesting story about somebody who did remarkable amount of things in a lifetime, and I never heard about it before. Geez, I want to know more about that. How did she do it? What were the obstacles? Who were the people she had to fight?
I like that.
Who were the people she defeated? Who were the people who defeated her? Those were all interesting aspects to the story that made it interesting to me.
Now, where do you think things are going? It's really an uncertain time.
As I've said many times on this podcast before, I think that people are always going to be interested in stories. The platform for which the stories are told changes all the time. So we've gone from CDs to, or movie theaters to CDs to streaming to whatever the form. I know someone who's working in vertical format projects because the iPhone is a vertical format. So why make everything wide and narrow? Why don't you make it in that format? And maybe you can sell projects in that format.
Yeah.
I don't care what format it is. I'll work in any format. A story's a story, whether it's told on an iPhone or whether it's told on a big screen or whether it's told on an IMAX.
You're not a movie theater purist.
Doesn't have to. No, I like movie theaters, and I like the experience of going to a movie theater, sitting in the dark with a bunch of strangers, and really being immersed in a project that isn't quite the same experience as sitting on a couch and eating potato chips.
I agree.
And stopping to pee and then coming back and watching and holding the thing. It's a different experience.
You made one little comment there that's actually quite profound. And now that I look at it in retrospect, that is a huge thing. You're sitting in a room in the dark with people you've never met and will never meet again, whose faces you don't even care to see, but there is a collective shared
experience. An experience.
The best experience in a movie theater is when, in my experience, when it's pretty well filled up, and there's the movie's landing like a good show, right? Like a good Broadway show, and you can just feel the energy in the room, and they're not making noise because they're respectful, but you can just feel those moments. They're almost amplified because of the crowd that's in there.
Well, you made a good point. All of that comes out of initially at a theater. You go to a theater and if you're in a theater and it's packed and every seat is taken, and you're watching a show that lands, as you say, it's an experience unlike anything else there is, because the audience is every bit as much of the experience as what's going on stage. You feel it, and it really, it's if you saw that same show and you were the only person sitting in the audience, it's a totally different experience.
Yeah,
totally different experience. So movies in theaters do have that kind of power, and it adds to the experience, and so it is an experience which I enjoy. I can certainly look at the same movie, see it on a television set or even on a cell phone, and enjoy the work that went into it, but the experience I have is going to be very different.
Right. And that's tying it back to Lilo and Stitch. I will take my kids to the theater specifically to see that film, even though we have our little screening room.
Other kids are going to be there, and they're going to be excited by that.
I want to see them have that moment, and I saw that with Minecraft. I took my daughter to Frozen 2 when it came out, and so that's great to be able to vicariously live through them again and just rediscover this phenomena of cinema. So
and also, I think that there is something to be said for the filmmakers recognizing that you are an adult and you're going to see the movie slightly differently than your child will, and they leave things in there that the child may not get, but that you will. And that's good.
I always appreciate that.
It's kind of good that they're respectful of the people who are seeing it, even though the primary audience is the youthful audience.
Yeah, that's true. Little Easter eggs for the parents that there's like, oh, that's a little racy, but I love that.
But you got it.
I got it.
It's okay.
They're just having fun. Yeah. No, it's interesting. And I think that to kind of maybe wrap it up, I feel like the fear around one or the other, I think we can all relax and let things play out. Things don't tend to completely disappear. They become additional things. Radio didn't go away because TV came out.
And a lot of people thought it would.
Yeah, and the theater
didn't go away
because,
when television came out. People said, "Oh, it's going to kill."
Exactly.
Well, of course, everything is going to kill it isn't that the new technology kills the previous technology. The new technology may change the previous technology, or it may limit it. Instead of there being, 200,000 theaters, there may only be 50,000 theaters. There'll be less theater experiences because most people will see their material in a different way. Doesn't matter. I mean, they're all useful.
Well, you were saying let's say envision a world. Now, again, I'm not talking about economics for private equity firms. That's different.
That's a whole other thing.
But for the experience of the human, well, everything's going to be VR. You're just going to sit in your thing and one day we'll have we'll be able to Matrix style download a movie. Here, I saw your movie just now. Okay, but we're humans,
I'm
gonna cut it out of the podcast and start working on that with Elon. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter if that were the case, because you're human and emotions drive your life. And if the experience of sitting in a theater can't be replaced, it's not tangible and physical. So there's always going to be a market for that. So if there are a lot of people on their phones watching a movie and there are less movie theaters, that might be okay, because then those theaters are going to fill up again because there's less of them. Mm-hmm. and that true experience of a movie might, like why people go buy vinyls and still spin,
of course,
slow play records in their living room.
No, they're coming back.
Yeah, they're coming back. So you go to a theater because it's a night out and you experience something.
It's an experience. And we've been talking a lot now about the experience, and all of that is related to how the audience takes in the projects that you make, I make, any filmmaker makes. We've also talked at some points about the making of those things, which is separate from the audience. And it's funny because I think that may be another subject for another day, but it was interesting because I have a grandson, and he's every bit as much, he's just about to go to college, and he's a gamer, and he's going into gaming. And he's going to be a game designer. And instead of being a movie maker, which is what I wanted to be, he wants to be a game designer. Mm-hmm. And that makes perfect sense. It's a bigger world even than, and he was saying something to me the other day, which I thought would be interesting for us. Maybe we'll talk about it another time. But that when we went from film, actual physical film, to digital, that was a huge revolution. It changed the way we make movies. It changed the process, the actual physical process of making them to a major degree. And he is saying to me, AI is going to do that. It's going to be the same shift in games. Games and AI together are going to be totally different than everything that you've seen up to this point, going from film to digital.
Oh yeah, that is interesting. I've never thought of it in that context. Because I was a big gamer as a kid, and in fact, my other possible trajectory was computer. I used to build my own computers and stuff, and so it was either tech or video. I probably should have gone with tech now that I think about it, but I'm not unsatisfied with my life.
That has to do with your pocketbook, not your brain.
Right. I don't regret it at all. But that's an interesting thing to think about, because the logic in a video game has always been the hindrance. The automated and the characters and stuff, them being just basically dumb and programmed. That is going to hugely change it. I can see completely dynamic, fluid games that one gameplay is nothing like the other because it's completely AI driven. That's interesting.
This is something I don't know anything about, but he's learning this, and this is his world, and I just hope when he earns what he will earn, that he will continue to take care of me. That's
right.
I'm fine.
You just need that little place down in Nice that you've been looking at for a while.
That's it.
One last thing I think, though, to kind of bring this all together, I feel like what's important to think about now, though, is not to use, you can't, don't use these things as your enemy. Like, find the opportunity, right? But I do feel like taking into account the format and the delivery of your film is probably going to be more important than ever before going forward. To know where really is the audience, not just like the demographic, but how are they consuming this, and how could it be consumed because you're not likely to get Warner Brothers to write you a check for $100 million to make your movie. And if you are, great, it'll be a box office release. But as an independent, you got to start thinking a little bit about these alternative delivery methods.
I think, of course, you do. Yeah. But you also should be. I mean, we could also analyze why a platform like Quibi failed.
Yeah.
Where they put millions, hundreds of millions of dollars into the notion of making short little, bite-sized bits of film. It just didn't. There was something missing not in the technology, but in the understanding of how an audience was going to absorb material and what they wanted. And I think because that failed doesn't mean that the short form doesn't work. It just means that they didn't do it right.
I believe that YouTube is going to be, in 10 years, the single most powerful distribution and entertainment platform. Nobody's going to be able to catch him because they
hard to catch him now.
It's hard to catch him now, and it's creator direct, and there are movies on there, and it is starting to take the shape of a real channel. If you play it on your Roku app or your Apple TV, it's starting to really look like you can have the Jonathan Sanger channel on YouTube, and they do ad revenue share with you and stuff. So it's not crazy money, but if the economics get figured out and you can, let's say you have a slate. Let's say you owned all of your films outright.
Yeah.
Combined on YouTube, on your channel, that's probably enough to, make it pretty...
Again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but, I think of the one where the filmmaker actually gets the rights back in 25 years and will own the film. I mean, he's changing. He is looking to change the economic model of the way movies are owned, sold. It doesn't mean that the maker doesn't get the opportunity to sell it for a tremendous amount of time, but they don't get it forever. And when they don't get it forever, it creates a legacy where the filmmaker has a legacy. Some late date in the future, that IP comes back, and that's an interesting thought.
That is interesting, and I'm not. We really need to wrap it up, but that is a really a lead in. 2 years ago at the producers conference, I went to a conversation about not AI, blockchain, crypto, that stuff.
Sure.
That has now been abandoned because of AI, but that is for this really interesting, because what we were exploring was. There is a way because blockchain is a ledger. So it's a decentralized network that keeps track on ledgers of transactions at its basic form. People use it for financial transactions, but that's not all it can do. What it also does is it attaches ownership and distributes all the way back to the source. So now let's say you have a Picasso. Let's say Picasso was still alive. He's about to pass. The estate goes on to his family. They liquidate a lot of the paintings. They make a lot of money with it, right? So now the Museum of Modern Art and wherever, bought a Picasso for $80 million. Okay, estate gets $80 million. Wonderful. Right now, what happens if they sell the film, the thing to a private collector or another museum? They get whatever the market value is, right? So they make $100 million. And so but the estate never gets anything, right? Picasso's done. With crypto now, you can attach what's called a smart contract to the property. So now the transaction goes through a blockchain transaction and automatically attributes a certain percentage back to the estate. So you could do that now with anything, with movies or artwork. So every time it gets resold, automatically
there's another cash.
There's a creator that that's getting paid from its source. So now you think about music and all these things. I could buy a CD and sell it to you. Now everything's digital. You can make it so that artists will always get their share, even if it's.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of artists who are really banking on that future. I mean, I think that, because they are not getting a fair share of the upside of their work.
Something a lot of people don't talk about is actually getting paid for your film from distributors and studios. It's not as simple as people think. No. You kind of have to fight for it sometimes.
Almost always.
Yeah. All right.
Well, hey.
Cool. Well,
thank you, man.
Thank you too. This was unexpected, but I like it.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good one.